dark dreamer? It is said that to best enjoy the light, you must first explore the heart and soul of the darkness. We are the artists who create in the shadows, whose dreams are designed to become your reality. I'm Stanley Wiater. Welcome to my world of the dark fantastic. Welcome to the world of dark dreamers. Are you a dark dreamer? Author, screenwriter, and musician Craig Spector most completely is. In 1983, Spector teamed up with John Skipp and splatterpunked the world of horror for an entire decade. Skipp and Spector's raw and cinematic style generated one novelization and then several truly terrifying novels. The Light at the End, The Cleanup, The Scream, Deadlines, and finally, Animals. In 1993, the duo parted ways. Spector went on to write the television movie Volcano: Fire on the Mountain, and in 2001, his first solo novel, To Bury the Dead, was published. Spector also plays in the band Smash Cut with fellow screenwriters Richard Christian Matheson and Preston Sturges Jr. Recently, Craig invited us to his abode in Pasadena, where we discussed the wonderfully dark philosophy behind it all. Craig, do you think horror writers are born or made?
Both. I think that it's a really odd way to want to make a living. I think that if you don't have a sense for it, there's no real point in trying to do this. To be a writer at all, no less be a horror writer. So I don't know. Everybody's got their own reason for being in. Me, I was, I guess, kind of born tuned to darker frequencies. I always saw scary things. I always had scary thoughts, and kind of accidentally became a writer.
But you didn't become a professional writer for several years. You got into music seriously.
I'm the accidental writer. I never expected, it was not my plan. It was not my intention to become a writer. I had no sort of dreams of being a writer one day. I was going to do something else. I had the idea that became my first novel, my final semester at the Berklee College of Music. And I was about to get a degree in music, and I was going to go become a professional musician. And I had this odd idea about a vampire in the subways, which I originally thought was just going to be a short story. And I called my old friend, John Skipp, at that point, boyhood friends, and he was actually planning on becoming a writer. And I said, I got a great idea. He had sold a couple of stories to Twilight Zone magazine. And I said that, I got this great idea about, why don't we write this and, we'll sell it to this magazine and make a couple $100 and it'll be great, But for me, that's all it was initially, it was a cool idea. It fascinated me, and I started pursuing it. And so I graduated from college and immediately moved to New York and became a street messenger, which is always something that somebody with a bachelor's degree should go do. And, I worked on the streets of New York for a couple of years, and I played in bands at night, and John and I wrote this book. And then when the book sold, suddenly people were looking at me and going, "Oh, you're the writer," and it was ironic because we had been messengers, and actually being a messenger helped to sell the book because I delivered the manuscript to the publisher as a messenger run, which was how we happened to get in the door at Bantam. And so I'm sitting there talking to people, and they're shaking my hand, and they're saying, "Oh, you wrote that book, you're the writer." And I know for a fact that some of the people that I'm talking to a week before wouldn't have safely entrusted me to carry an envelope from 54th Street down to 32nd Street, and now it's like, "Oh, you're the writer." And it was like at that point this doorway opened up that I had never even thought about.
Now there's a name that's in some dictionaries. It's called splatterpunk.
The Satanic Musketeers.
That David Scow coined. Tell me what a splatterpunk is.
I have no idea. Splatterpunk was a thing that happened. It was, I think at the time, we had kind of a very ironic view of it. We said, it's a state of mind, it's a phase, it's just, it's a thing we're going through. But at the time, we were, I remember when that interesting term was coined, we were at a convention back in the 80s, and it was during the boom time in horror, and all of a sudden, Stephen King had broken really big, and Clive Barker had just been discovered, and so publishing was, you couldn't lose with horror. And we had all just met each other, like, Skip and Spector meet Scow, meet Matheson, meet Barker, and we're all just basically, I know for my part, I was new to all of this. I was new to the whole genre, to the industry, and I was reading the work of these other writers and thinking, this is great. I love these guys' stuff. This is, it was this kind of kinship of like, here are people who are doing their own version of the same kind of thing that I'm doing, and it's just great to meet these people, and it was very exciting. But at the same time, being the media-savvy creatures that I think just about everybody in the 20th century is at this point, we knew that sooner or later somebody would slap a label on it. And at the time in science fiction, the big thing, as we recall, was cyberpunk. So it became very fashionable for a while that everything was sort of blank punk. And we sat around having drinks one night just joking about, well, what are they going to call this? When you have all this kind of new blood come into this field at this great boom time, somebody's going to slap a name on it. So we just were inventing names, and Scow was finally the one who put the two together and said splatterpunk. And the second we heard it, we were like, yes, And then for a period of a few years, it became a really cheap and easy way to get press. It's like, it's high concept. People love it. It's like, oh, splatterpunk, what is that? And then, we were having fun with it for a while. The point at which it stopped being fun was the point at which people started telling us, well, this story that you've written is not a splatterpunk story. And this is one of these little lessons in life that, I guess, I learned, as you usually learn things the hard way. People slap a label on you, and then for a while it's fun, and then it's not fun anymore because the label has taken on a life of its own, and now people, critics, or other people are telling you this very thing that you seem to be creating, whether or not you belong to the club.
How did you and John Skip work together? You and John at the time were really the only two major horror writers, quote unquote, who were a team. Everyone else was a solo act.
Yeah, for a while we were kind of like a mythological beast with two heads. It was interesting because it was John and there was me, and we are, and always were, extremely different people, almost polar opposite in temperament and a lot of other ways, but we somehow hit this common ground that was there from really when we first met. It was part of the nature of our dynamic. It's like we came from such different places to this common ground, and we did it in music, and we did it in a lot of different things, and it translated back over into writing. And for us, coming out of music, I think we brought a lot of that whole energy to the actual act of writing, which is normally and traditionally a very solitary, thing that you do all by yourself. And for us, it was more like a jam. It was like playing in a band or something. So we would really kind of just kick the ideas back and forth. We'd go off to our corners to write. We'd come back and, throw each other what we'd written, rewrite it. And after a while, we created kind of the third voice, the Skip and Spector voice, which was its own entity.
But speaking of the timeline, there was you working with John Skip, and then there was basically nothing from either of you, and now there's To Bury the Dead. Can I ask what happened in that period between working with John Skip and now there's the book To Bury the Dead?
Yeah, I was really busy rebuilding my life. Right around the time that the partnership ended, I was going through a really just horrible point in my life. I mean, I was dealing with my first marriage ending, which ended very badly and, tragically, and kind of very bad breakup. And then the partnerships breaking up, all these different things. My father was dying. And I came out of all of that, and I felt like I know who I am, but who am I? And I really kind of very consciously pulled back from a lot of things and just quietly set about, reinventing myself and rediscovering myself and working. And along the same time, I'm starting a solo career, with this great running head start. And I had an opportunity to work in television. So I spent, this is the odd thing about Hollywood, is like you can be working and gainfully employed, and nobody ever sees any of it because it gets lost in that thing that we call development hell. But I spent probably about 3 or 4 years just writing one movie after another, of which I think only one actually got produced, which was the Volcano movie that was done for ABC. But I was writing a lot of different kinds of stuff, and it was really a lot of fun. I was writing thrillers, sci-fi, horror, disaster movie. I was doing all kinds of things, and just it was great to be able to break out of that, that box that horror had become, and certainly splatterpunk had become. And I was just really stretching myself. I was getting paid. I was having a lot of fun, meeting a lot of good people, and I started working on my novel. And with my novel, I really decided to go in a different direction as well, kind of the inverse of everything that had come before. Now, I'm impelled to look at dark things. Dark things remind me of why life is worth living. Engaging with fear, and God knows there's enough of it in the world, just makes me feel better about the good things that are there, and why it's meaningful to fight for them, why they're worth caring about at all, and what the hell does any of this mean? As we kind of like trundle along through the food chain from birth to death, it's like, is there a point to any of this? So when I go in as a writer, I'm really trying to get, whatever the story is, I'm just trying to get to the heart of it and feel something myself that I can articulate, and hopefully, other people will feel it if I do my job right. I have the same standards as a consumer of entertainment. I'm looking for the serious stuff, for the good stuff.